Hello, ArchieLuxury here, ArchieLuxury channel. And today I wanted to talk about I watched a program on ABC's Four Corners, and this was actually a BBC Panamera. I think that's what it's called. It's basically a BBC presentation, and it was a news story about Apple's broken promises. And what it did is it looks at the Apple, the factories that make iPhones and Apple products. And it's quite interesting because see Apple doesn't actually own these factories. No, it subcontracts the production of these devices to Chinese companies which specialize in the mass production of electronic devices. And it's very interesting. Apple themselves are the most valuable company on earth. That's the highest value company, the highest market capitalization. That's where you get all the Apple stocks, and you multiply them by the unit price. And the Apple brand itself, very strong, top biggest company in the world, rumored to be in line to be the first $1 trillion company. $1 trillion, there you go, fuckers. How's that? And the interesting thing is they basically, Apple themselves are a technology company. They design technology, they market it through their retail distribution stores and dealer network, but they don't actually make it. They're very clever in how they've done it. And it's a completely new way of selling products. In the old days, if you're making a product like, say, a washing machine or a car, the manufacturer would have a factory and they would make the products. They would control the manufacture and the distribution. It would then go to dealers, etc., etc. But Apple themselves, this new formula is basically that they control the marketing, the development, and they subcontract out the manufacturer. One of Apple's big manufacturers is a company called Foxconn, and they basically have a pretty bad record as far as the workers go, and it's really quite appalling. If you take a look at this BBC program, it says that they went undercover and they enormous pressure on the workers. There's no such thing as an 8-hour day. No, it's a 12 or 16-hour day. Some shifts can be as long as 36 hours straight with breaks. And it's pretty I don't know what the term for it is. It's pretty fucking nasty. And you look at something like an iPhone and you think, well, that's a product that has got a lot of mechanization. You know, an iPhone itself, it's an electronic device. You would imagine robots and computers, you know, electronics put it together. But it's actually got so much. It's a handmade product. It's using labor, and it's a great shame. What do you say? What do you honestly say about this? And Apple's broken promises. Basically, Apple doesn't give a flying fuck about the contractors or any of its the people who work in factories that make Apple products. See, Apple's been sneaky. They don't own the factories. They distance themselves. Oh, that's our approved contractors. They're very fucking sneaky. And the reality is, basically, these workers in China are basically slaves producing these products, threatened with all sorts of things, huge hours. And it's been so bad. People in these in the Foxconn plant were committing suicide, and Foxconn's response is they got the employees to sign a declaration to say they will not commit suicide, and they put big nets out the front of their buildings to stop people jumping off the building to end their life. And it's pretty fucking terrible. It's pretty fucking terrible when you got the biggest company in the world, which you would think, hey, they would have good practices for their contractors or employees, but they don't. They just don't give a shit. And Apple's response has been less than satisfactory. They don't give a fuck. They don't really give a fuck. And it's sad to see the Western world abusing workers overseas. You could never get away with this in the Western world. And with globalization, they've just exported the problem. It's modern day slavery. It's basically what it is. Modern day slavery. They've got arm's length distance there, so Apple can say, well, it's not, we don't own those factories. No, that's a contractor. They can blame it on someone else. It's all pretty sludgy. So next time you pick up your iPhone, have a think about the poor fuckers who put it together. I'm ArchieLuxury. Take a look at this clip. I'll put a few links in the description, and tell me what you fuckers think of that.
This is where your iPhone 6 comes from. These are the first secret pictures from inside the factories that produce for Apple. An exhausted workforce, people sleeping on their breaks, others falling asleep as they work. In 2010, after 14 workers killed themselves at another factory producing iPhones, Apple published promises to protect workers. So have things changed? Our undercover reporters got jobs through agencies, and within minutes, Apple's rules were broken. Everyone in China needs to carry an ID card. Our workers' card has been taken.
They said they needed to see my ID. When they got it, they didn't return it to me. I demanded that they return it. I felt helpless.
They came to work at Pegatron, where iPhones and iPads are assembled. They have to pass a crucial health and safety exam. They will. The answers are chanted out. And they're offered a choice, whether they want to work nights or do work standing up. But there's no choice.
He said if you don't do what the company asks you to do, what is the point of employing you here?
Apple told us they've seen no evidence of coaching. On ID cards, Apple says they've done more than any company to prevent the widespread abuse of migrant workers. Once in, our reporters were overwhelmed by the workload. Shifts have overtime built in, so workers regularly do more than 60 hours a week, more than Apple's guidelines. And so workers rested when they could. This iPhone 6 testing area has virtually no one awake. Apple says they'll examine sleeping during production, but napping on breaks is not unusual.
Apple has been championing itself as a perfect enterprise, but it is all a facade. I don't think they care about the workers at all.
Pegatron, who run the factory, say they are carefully investigating the BBC's claims and will take all necessary actions. Apple say they work with suppliers to prevent excessive overtime and that no other company is doing as much to ensure fair and safe working conditions. What we found were broken promises on the iPhone factory floor. Richard Bilton, BBC News, Shanghai.